Hi there, welcome to Just in Time Lapse. So today we're going to talk about something that's often covered on YouTube, and that's stuck bleed nipples in rusty brake calipers. There are many videos out there about this, but I think that you may want to stick around and watch this video, as I'm going to show you in a lot of detail how to do this without breaking it, and I want to make sure that you're sure you can do this. Quite a lot of the things I cover in this video aren't actually covered in the other videos because they use things like oxyacetylene torches to heat it up, or they're snapping off drill bits inside of it. All of those techniques work, but if that's a bit much for you and you want to take a slightly gentler approach, and this is what you're looking at, i.e. where the bleed nipple and the caliper look like one thing, which is where this caliper started, I can help. So sit back, relax, and let's go on a journey of patience and observation to find out how we're going to get this apart, because we do, and it takes about 20 minutes. The first thing we're going to do is use our torch to heat the nipple, specifically the nipple, and we're going to use the very tip of the blue flame because that's the hottest part of the flame. We're hitting the nipple itself because we want it to expand and we want it to crush the rust in between it and the caliper body. We've heated that for about 1.5 minutes. Now we're using the screwdriver, and if you look closely you'll see we're working around the edge of the nipple where it joins the caliper body, and you can see us just picking up an edge there, and that's what we're going to use later on to put the penetrating oil into. Now we give it a quick brush and you can start to see a little bit of metal, and now you can see they look like two different objects all of a sudden. Quick tap of the hammer to crush some of the rust and just hydraulically work that penetrating fluid in. A little bit more of a tap. We're not hitting it very hard. If you look, it's just loosely held in my hand. Tippy tappy tippy tap, tippy tappy tippy tap. And now we're just going to work around the edge with a big screwdriver. You don't have to do this, but I was just trying to knock the edges. And if you look at that, did you see that rust come off there? That's a really good sign. Quick brush. And we're back on for heat cycle 2. That little flame, that's some of the penetrating oil that's gone down the bleed nipple, just igniting. And what we're aiming to do here is just heat it up again. This time I think we heat it up for about 1 minute, and then you can see we're just quenching it with the penetrating oil and trying to get the penetrating oil down the centre of the bleed nipple to where the seat is. And now we're off on a little side quest. I'm not sure why I did this, but I was just having a look at the brake hose at the top, and we're back to tapping again. Look at the hand position, it's just held lightly in your hand. Now again we're just working around trying to get the edges there, and squirt of that again, WD on there, and a brush, and then back to tapping. So we're just going through that cycle again and again, trying to find the edge, give it a tap, and this time look at all that rust coming off of it. Where's all that come from? So we're getting somewhere. I know we're getting somewhere this time. I know we've hit something or we've caused something to move, because that rust just appeared out of nowhere. And if you remember last time we quenched it, nothing really happened. So now I'm back to this little side quest where I'm trying to undo the top one here and having a think and walking around. Sometimes it's good just to step away for a minute and just let things happen. Let's try and get a spanner on here. Now you can see I haven't got very good purchase on there. The spanner's not sitting, so I don't think we can use that. Now I try and put a socket on it. Nope, that's not happening either. I actually think it's not the right time for that, so I go back to cleaning it off with a screwdriver and another squirt of WD, and we're back to heat again. I think this time I heat it for about 1 minute and 50 seconds. You can see it's always around 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, and by now we've brushed it 3 times. We've hit it about 5 times, 5 sets of hitting. We've heated it about 4 times, we've soaked it about 5 times, and we've scraped it off about 3 times. So you can see this is a cycle, this is a pattern. And now we're going to go for the grips. This is not for force, right? We're not going to put these grips on and then wang a load of effort into a load of force, because you'll just snap the nipple. What we're doing here is we're trying to get the grips as tight as we can. Now I've actually counted the number of teeth, and I'm between the 3rd and 4th teeth, and then I'm just gently winding the grips up to get as maximum grip on there. And then look, forefinger and thumb, just moving it back and forth. Have we got any movement? I'm not actually sure yet whether or not we've got any movement. I think we might. The grips are as tight as I can get them. And if you just have a look at the light edge on the corner, you can just see the nipple is starting to move. Now, I've broken more of these than I've undone in this situation. And at this point, the mistake I always made was like, oh, I can see some movement. Right, let's just twist it. And at that point, bang, it'll snap. So don't do that. This is the point at which you need to apply some patience, and you need to apply some more cycles of what we're doing here. So you can see it's just starting to move. Do you A, try and turn it, or do you B, go back to heating? I think we should do B, but we've definitely got some movement there. And the grips have to be on really tight to get this to work. You can see again, just thumb and forefinger. We're not using any much more pressure than we would if we had that 7mm spanner on there. You see just thumb and forefinger, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And this will just, basically, this is the technique. This is what you need to be doing. Oh, I'm not sure. I think the grip slipped off there. So we're just going to put the grips back on again. And at this point, as soon as you feel that's beginning of movement, that's the point at which you need to say, whoa, and we're going to go through another heat cycle. So you see I'm choosing between the third and fourth teeth. I'm lining it up. Hang on, getting it on. And if you always choose the same number of teeth, and it's on something round like a bleed nipple, you can set the grips once. You can set them as tight as you can possibly get them. And remember, just twiddle the knob on the end until you've got it, and then just keep undoing it and redoing it and tightening it up until you can barely grip it with both hands and get it to snap on. And at that point, yeah, here you can see now it's moving a little bit. I've just got maybe 5 degrees of movement. So once you've got this 5 degrees of movement, you can get this undone. It will come undone, but you absolutely cannot rush. So I'm looking at this, and this is why you need it in the vise as well, because you need to be able to see what's going on. You need good light, you need the vise, and I'm definitely getting movement, and I'm just basically just pumping penetrating fluid in there, and I've just sped it up a bit so you can just see that I'm just giving it a jiggle, giving it a wiggle, continuing to wiggle it, and you can see the time ticking along. You know, this is a good couple of minutes of just faffing around with WD and wiggling it. Doodle-doodle-doo. At this point, we go back to heat again, which feels like the opposite thing of what you should do, because really you're like, oh, I've got some movement. Well, okay, let's do that. But look at what happens. We're going to heat it for another, I don't know, a minute or something like that. So we've probably put like 5 or 6 minutes worth of heat in, quench it again, and then we're chucking the WD down the actual tube of the vise of the bleed nipple. And again, you can see I'm just lining up on the number of teeth, third and fourth teeth, and I can just go bang, snap it straight on again, and look what happens. We've got more movement. We've got more movement with just the heat cycle. So now we know this is how you make it work. You just keep going through the heat cycle. And again, here we go, got the wiggle on, and it's starting to get bigger and bigger. And again, I'm just using thumb and forefinger. And now I've flipped it over because I think I can get this undone. I think I can make a little bit more movement. So again, we're going to line it up, third and fourth teeth, both hands, snap it on. There you go. And it's just moving. So you can see the movement has increased again. And I'm just going to keep working it back and forth. And now I've moved the grips up and around, and I'm going to change the position, and we're just going to try and get a bit more movement. So now you can see we've gone from maybe 3 or 4 degrees to 5 or 10 degrees, and now we've got about maybe 35 or 40 degrees of movement. And I'm going to put the 7mm on. I'm going to put the 7mm on because it's actually loose enough to undo now, and I don't need all of that force and all of that grip. And there's not very much on the flats here. It's pretty mashed up, especially since I've been sticking these vice grips on. You can see I've got there's 90 degrees. Here we go. There's 180 degrees. Back and forth still. I'm still using the back and forth motion. And round we go. And that's it. That's out. No slap nipple. And you can see it's in one piece. Now you're going to have to put that nipple in the bin. And with the state of this caliper, it needs new pistons and seals. Yours probably will too, but you might get away with it. I'd suggest you inspect them before you put it back on the road. Make sure brakes are safety critical, so make sure you do things properly with brakes. Anyway, I hope that's been useful. I've got another couple of videos where I show 10 techniques similar to this to get stuck stuff undone. I'm actually taking the caliper pins out, and yeah, I hope that's been useful. Good luck. I wanted to add a link for you to be able to buy a set of mole grips exactly like the ones in this video, but unfortunately I couldn't find any. I think because they don't make them anymore. The ones I'm using here are my wife's grandfather's, so they're definitely older than I am and probably older than all of you too. So instead I've put a link to a set of Sealy grips which are moderately priced, but they will be good quality. I've got a fair number of their tools. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, by the way. And full disclosure, if you buy them from this link, I get a bit of commission. So thank you if you do. You've been watching Just in Time Lapse.